Welcome to today's session, Physiology of Hearing, Part 3. In the previous lecture, you have learned about the conduction of the sound waves in human ear and the transduction of the sound energy into the neural impulses. Now, in this lecture, I am going to teach you about the auditory pathway and important features related to it and neural processing of auditory information. So, let us begin with the auditory pathway. Afferents of the cochlear division of the vestibulocochlear nerve. They end in dorsal and ventral cochlear nucleus. Most of the fibers they cross to the contralateral side and ascend in lateral lemniscus. Now some fibers they synapse with ipsilateral and contralateral group of nucleus. They are trapezoid body nucleus and superior olivary nucleus. Now fibers from this ipsilateral and contralateral group of nuclei they ascend in ipsilateral or contralateral lateral lemniscus and end in inferior colliculus. Fibers from the inferior colliculus end in the medial geniculate body. Auditory radiation from the medial geniculate body they end in the auditory cortex. Auditory cortex it is situated in superior part of temporal lobe. Now the important features of auditory pathway. From the medulla onwards, auditory pathway they are bilaterally represented. So the isolated lesion of the auditory cortex it does not produce unilateral deafness, but the central lesions they decreases ability to differentiate various pattern of the sound and inability to localize sound in space. Unilateral deafness most commonly occur due to damage to the cochlear nuclei and more peripheral structures. There is significant descending pathway forming feed forward and feedback loop exist. So from the superior olivary complex, olivocochlear bundle, they descend along with the vestibulocochlear nerve and innervate base of the outer hair cells and they can modify the activity of outer hair cells and they release the hyperpolarizing mediator most probably acetylcholine. Role in brainstem and spiral acoustic reflex. Afferents of the spiral acoustic reflex they are formed by vestibulocochlear nerve and they end in the brainstem where they synapse with the motor nucleus of the seventh cranial nerve. So efferents they are formed by facial nerve and they supply stapedius muscle. So upon stimulation of the ear with a higher frequency sound, it produces contraction of the stapedius muscle and this is known as spiral acoustic reflex. Integration of the visual and auditory information occurs due to interconnection between superior and inferior colliculi. Because of the collateral to the reticular formation and cerebellum auditory pathway, they play a role in general arousal also. Systemic organization of the sound frequency within an auditory structure is called tonotopy. So topographical mapping of frequency is the tonotopic organization. Here we can see the structure of the basilar membrane and various inner hair cells innervated by the afferents of the cochlear nerve. So from the different portions of the basilar membrane, these afferent fibers they carry information up to the cochlear nuclei. And in this cochlear nuclei, this definite sequence of the neuron it is maintained. So it is like the map of the basilar membrane inside the cochlear nuclei and this is known as tonotopic organization. This type of the tonotopic organization it is maintained up to the auditory cortex. In the auditory cortex, here we can see the column of the neurons which responds to particular type of the frequency. These are known as isofrequency columns and they have same characteristic frequency. Now apart from this isofrequency columns, there are other type of the columns they are also present like the summation columns and the suppression columns. Summation columns they respond to input from both the ear and suppression column they respond to input from one ear. In this manner, auditory cortex it responds to particular type of the frequency input from both the ear and input from one ear, and in this manner it processes the auditory signals received. Hemispheric specialization. Previously the term dominant hemisphere it was widely used. So it was believed that one hemisphere is dominant in our brain. But now various studies they suggest that each and every hemisphere has their own specialization. For example, area 22 which is concerned with the processing of auditory signals related to speech, it is more active in the left hemisphere, and area 22 on the right side is more concerned with melody, pitch and sound intensity. So we can say various musical abilities they are more developed in the right hemisphere, and the processing of the auditory signal related to speech it is more active on the left hemisphere. So hemispheric specialization is present in our cortical area associated with audition. There exists a great plasticity in our auditory pathway. For example, if person become deaf before language skill developed, viewing sign language activates auditory association area. Musicians, they have larger auditory area and cerebellum than non-musicians. And blind people, they can localize sound source more accurately. So these are the example of plasticity of auditory pathway. So plasticity is modification of the activity by experience. Now let's summarize important features of auditory pathway. So bilateral representation is there in auditory pathway. Descending pathways they are also present from superior olivary nucleus to the outer hair cells which can modify their functions. Because of the collateral to the reticular formation and cerebellum, auditory pathway play role in general arousal also. Tonotopic organization is present from cochlear nuclei and it is maintained up to the cortex, and in the cortex column of the neurons they are present which processes auditory signals depending on the input from one ear and both the ear, and they respond to the particular frequency and they are known as isofrequency columns. There exists a great plasticity of the auditory pathway. Plasticity is the modification of the function by experience. Now you have learned about the auditory pathway and important features related to it. Now one important question remains: how we can differentiate between the various frequency of the sound, various intensity of the sound that we hear in our everyday life. So now you will learn about the neural processing of the auditory information that includes encoding of frequency, encoding of intensity, as well as localization of sound in space. Encoding of frequency. Human ear can discriminate sound between 60 to 20,000 Hz frequency range, and this encoding occurs in cochlear nerve. It can be explained by duplex theory of the hearing, which involves place and traveling wave theory by George von Bekesi. For this theory, he won Nobel Prize. And the second theory is the phase locking and Wolay principle. Now, first of all, the place and traveling wave theory by von Bekesi. So von Bekesi determined that the movement of the endolymph makes the basilar membrane bend near its base, starting a wave that propagates gradually towards apex. So movement of the endolymph it produces movement of the basilar membrane, where a traveling wave it propagates from base to apex. Now this movement of the basilar membrane it depends on its structural characteristics. Here we can see the structure of the cochlea. This is the base of the cochlea and this is the apex of the cochlea. Here we can see two windows. This is the oval window which is closed by foot plate of the stapes, and this is round window which is closed by secondary tympanic membrane. Now cochlea it is wider at the base and gradually it tapers at the apex. But look at the basilar membrane. Basilar membrane is more narrow at the base and it is more wider at the apex. Now, at the base, basilar membrane it contains more stiff fibers, and at the apical part these fibers are less stiff. So at the base, basilar membrane is narrow and it contains more stiff fibers, and at the apex, basilar membrane is wide and it contains less stiff fiber or loose fiber. So because of this difference in the structural characteristics of the basilar membrane, it responds to different frequency of the sound differently. Now here we can see the structure of the basilar membrane and its response to high frequency and low frequency sounds. Because the base of the basilar membrane it contains more stiff fibers and it is narrow, so it responds more to high frequency sounds, and gradually the energy of the sound is dissipated and it cannot reach up to the apex. Low frequency sound they produce more displacement of the basilar membrane and the vibration near the apex because of the wider basilar membrane and less stiff fibers. So high frequency sound they produce vibration near the base, and low frequency sound they produces vibration of the basilar membrane near the apex. So the base of the basilar membrane is tuned for high frequency and apex it is tuned for low frequency. So we can say that the basilar membrane is mechanical analyzer of sound frequency, and the pattern of the movement of the basilar membrane is that of the traveling wave, and that's why this theory is known as traveling wave theory. And with this theory we can explain the discrimination of the sound between 2000 to 20,000 Hertz. Now let us summarize the traveling wave theory or place principle. So this is the structure of the cochlea. This is the base of the cochlea and this is the apical part. Now in this cross section we can see the scala media which contains organ of Corti. Now this is the basilar membrane. So with the movement of the basilar membrane there is movement of the organ of Corti occurs. Now look at the structure of the basilar membrane. Near the base, basilar membrane is narrow and it is more wide at the apex, and base contains more stiff fibers and apex contains loose fibers. Here we can see the movement of the ossicles, they are transmitted in the endolymph which produces movement of the basilar membrane. So high frequency sounds they produces movement of the basilar membrane near the base, and low frequency sound they produces vibration of the basilar membrane near the apex. So this movement of the basilar membrane it depends on the different frequency of the sounds. So base is responds to high frequency and apex it responds to low frequency. Now listen all the sounds in this second video. So at the apex it responds to high frequency sounds, and base it responds to low frequency sounds. So depending on the vibration of the basilar membrane it produces stimulation of the hair cells, and these impulses they are carried via cochlear division of the vestibulocochlear nerve, and in this manner it informs to the higher cortex about the frequencies which are present in the sound. Von Beck's traveling wave theory it explains discrimination of the sound waves from 2000 to 20,000 Hz, but it cannot explain the discrimination of the frequency below 2000 Hz. Wallis principle, it can explain the discrimination of the low frequency sound below 2000 Hz. So for very low frequency sound, there is synchronization is present between the frequency of the sound and rate of discharge through the cochlear nerve. Here we can see the frequency of sound wave and its synchronization is present with the rate of the discharge through the cochlear nerve. So for example, 200 burst of the neural activity for 200 Hz signal. So for the all the low frequency sound below 2000 Hz, there is synchronization is present between the frequency of the sound and rate of discharge, and in this manner it informs to brain about the frequency of the sound which is present. Encoding of intensity. Intensity is the loudness. So increase in the intensity increases the displacement of the basilar membrane. More displacement of the basilar membrane increases the frequency of the firing in the auditory nerve fiber. Here we can see the sound wave with the similar frequency but with increase in the intensity. Here we can see the rate of discharge, and with the increase in the intensity, frequency of the firing in the action potential in auditory nerve increases. In this manner, it provides information to our auditory cortex about the intensity of sound that we hear. Localization of sound in space. A person determines the horizontal direction from which sound comes by two principal means. For sound less than 3000 Hz frequency, the time lag between the entry of the sound in one ear and its entry into the opposite ear by medial superior olivary nucleus. So when sound source it lies near the left side of the head, the sound wave first enters inside the left ear, then they enter in the right ear. So the sound from the left ear first it is processed into the auditory signals, and then they are perceived by the cortex, and then signals from the right ear they are processed in the auditory signals, and then they are perceived by the brain. So there is a time lag is present between the signals from the right ear and signals from the left ear. So because the auditory signals from the left ear they reaches the auditory cortex first, so our brain perceives that the sound source it lies near the left side of the head. For high frequency sounds, the difference between the intensity of the sound in the two ear by the lateral superior olivary nucleus, it provides information about the localization of the sound in space. So at the end of this session, you have learned about the auditory pathway and important features related to it, and neural processing of auditory information that includes encoding of frequency, encoding of intensity, and localization of sound in space. In next lecture, I will teach you about applied aspects of hearing. Thank you.